I was 20 plus countries in home truths as well about chasing freedom, ultimately because they want to look back on life and they want to say, yeah, that suited me as a person. You often meet people that are at one of maybe like three or four stages, finding a reality in your freedom, right? When I quit my job 2.5 years ago, I didn't know exactly what my break, my time off would look like. Further down the line, I realized that I was 20 plus countries in and I'd met so many different people, people that I like to call more to life people because they have probably made a bold move or maybe they live in some sort of unconventional lifestyle. They always had so many lessons to share, some home truths as well about chasing freedom. So I got to this point where I really had collected all this information about these people and had these insights. So that has made up a massive part of my experience in the last few years. And of course, there's been other things that I've done, great projects, and continued my training as a mindfulness teacher, which is what you and I are going to be talking about more as we make more videos and do more sessions. So I'm hoping to share some of the really practical, relatable stuff that has been a godsend for me. You know, mindfulness is essentially my system for life now. And without it, I wouldn't have been able to navigate my own changes and gone down my own path. So this is the theme of what we're going to be talking about in the future. Today, I thought it would be really nice, like really fun, if we go through some of those lessons that I've learned from those, you know, more to life people about finding real freedom and making that personality trait and approach to life. More to life people. I think the word really captures it because, you know, it's a real mixed bag. But I think the commonality is that these tend to be people that want more than what they know. They crave different experiences. They're the ones that are always pushing boundaries, ultimately because they want to look back on life and they want to say, yeah, that suited me as a person. You know, I made a mark on my own life. I think a lot of the systems that we find ourselves operating in are increasingly alienating and uninspiring. Some of the conversations that I have, a lot of similar themes come up where people say, I'm working somewhere, people don't talk to each other, or I'm living somewhere where I don't feel like I can fully show my whole personality. So there's this trend of people kind of stepping out of that and saying, actually, no, I want to make a choice for myself. These people are adventurous, curious. They want to prioritize flexibility. They want to prioritize variety. And then, of course, freedom, which, as we're going to talk about, can be a bit of a challenge because when freedom becomes the goal, sustaining fulfillment isn't always that easy. These people can be from a whole load of different backgrounds. They're a real mixture of people, but some of the challenges that they face tend to be quite common. And that was one of the things that I picked up was that you often meet people that are at one of maybe like three or four stages in meeting these challenges and getting over these challenges in terms of like who they are and what their path is and what they do. That's completely vary. You have different people across these different stages. You might have someone who is doing the work, travel, repeat cycle. You might have someone who has, you know, quit their job to take an open-ended career break. You might have someone who's going down the digital nomad path, or there's even people that are becoming more entrepreneurial. There's a real diversity of people, but the challenges among them tend to be quite similar. And actually what happens is you see people that break through those challenges and you see how much personality growth that comes with. And when you meet those people, they're really inspiring, warm, they're really amazing to be around. And actually, we're going to talk more about some of their characteristics later on. But they're the kind of people that do life. They're not waiting for life to happen to them. Let's maybe go through some of those stages and some of those different challenges, and then I can share those pieces. One of the first things that you see is that often people have made some sort of move that's had a really big impact on them. And that can be different things. Like it could be that they've quit their job, it could be that they've moved country. For some people, it's that they've left some sort of toxic relationship. They've made a move that's had such an impact on them that they've managed to really grow from that move, right? Seeing what's expected of you, realizing that, and then making an alternative choice. That's like a real pivoting moment. All these like invisible rules of life, all of these things that we're apparently meant to do by the time that we're 30, statuses, job titles, milestones, people realize success might be in one of those markers, but fulfillment is a feeling and success doesn't guarantee that feeling. So once you have that realization, they've said, actually, I can see what is expected of me, and I'm going to make a choice for me. We get so attached to the things that we have in life. We get super attached to the things we think give us identity. When we let go of some of those things, it becomes a really like liberating, insightful experience. I don't think it necessarily means that that move has to be something specific. It's just what it means to you as a person. So how fruitful it is really about how you experience it. So for example, I quit my job before I quit my job. So I left the company I was working at for a long time to move to a different company. And then I stepped away from the industry, even though perhaps that move of stepping away, not having a job, traveling, changing life seems objectively bigger than the other one. For me, it was that first move that took way more. I'd gotten so used to it being part of my identity. I didn't really know who I was without it. So when I did quit, I had this moment of like, oh my God, I'm still existing. I'm still alive. The headspace completely opens up and possibilities kind of completely open up. You can really enjoy that feeling of escape and freedom for a while. And it becomes a really good way to learn more lessons because you start to question other things. For me, I've completely changed my thoughts and beliefs about everything that I thought that I needed in life. And that's really enabled my freedom, right? I've got a really good example. I met someone recently when I was in Asia, and he told me he was just living away from home for a few months, taking the opportunity to live somewhere else, breaking the routine, resetting, and then seeing what he wanted to take home with him. So he was very intentional in his change, right? He knew what he wanted out of it. For other people, it does then get to this point when I guess the novelty is worn off, where they're like, "You know, well, now what? Where am I headed?" And I think if you're someone who's kind of continuously traveling, that's the route that you've gone down, everything can get a bit like same, and the travel starts to feel a bit non-purposeful. If you're someone that's perhaps moved abroad, you then realize that it's not just a full-time holiday. Life is happening there as well. And I've also met people that really restrict themselves in some areas of their lives in order to gain freedom in other parts. After a while, that can take its toll. Old habits can show up in new realities. So you might have like gone, grass is greener over here, but there are problems that will eventually follow you. So things like the doubts, the questioning of yourself, comparing yourself to other people, there tend to be things that pop up again in new realities. And that can really lead on to this feeling of feeling like perhaps a bit lost and disconnected, which is not ideal for perhaps some people, because if they're going down a continuous path, whether it's traveling, whether it's making bigger changes and more decisions about life, that can be quite stalling and you can start to feel like really quite trapped. Even decisions about really basic things become very difficult to make. So I think this is where a lot of people say, let's pause. I need to do a bit of work to really know something about myself, about what I want in my life and what the possibilities are and how I can get hold of them. Actually, this is a really important it was an important lesson for me that completely transformed my life. And it's really about how we are fulfilled. You can have all of the ingredients to a cake, and they can be really high quality ingredients. You could be really lucky that you've got good choices of things that you've got there. But the cake is never going to bake itself. Life might give you a load of opportunities and possibilities, but there's only one side of the transaction. The other side of it is you, how you show up in that, how you experience it. So I think that people start to realize that fulfillment, to a certain extent, needs to be built from inside out. Because if you continually chase external things, if you're continually going on that chase, picking up of that feeling of like, I need more, and it's a continuous feeling, where is that ever going to end? I think that fulfillment and being present are so interlocked. And I think that once people realize this, they look at themselves and get really honest and say, what are the things that really stop me being fully present? Regardless of what your method is to do this, with some self-observation over time, if you train in that, you can develop awareness. And awareness is an incredibly powerful tool, a powerful vehicle for being able to understand perhaps some of your needs, about some of your voids that you might need to work on, to recognize some of those patterns, those old habits that we spoke about. A question actually that comes up a lot with people that I meet is, at what point does digital nomad or entrepreneur or world traveler become this new status that you're trying to meet? So the way that you're acting is because you think that's the way that you should behave, or you should believe this, or you should feel this. If you start making decisions based on what you think that you should want and how you think you should feel, it becomes a real barrier to just living your lived experience. If we can find a way to keep recognizing those patterns of attachment, of those beliefs, and letting them go, we have a real powerful tool for making freedom feel good, being able to feel fulfilled in the moment. You make freedom a process that gives you a really nice space to exist in. It's genuine. It's real. You can be way more appreciative of life. It's finding a reality in your freedom, right? Rather than it always being a chase. So it's really interesting to see how little belief some people have in themselves. You can really see how heavy that prospect of taking a bet on themselves sits. And I think perhaps making more practical changes in order to support your lifestyle, making investments, facing hard stuff, people have a lesser capacity for it. In like performance oriented cultures, it's all about hard work. It's all about grind. That's how you get results. You're already worthy if you've got this performance, if you've got these results. If someone has gone through a grueling experience, like a grueling academic experience, they've always been knocked back. They've told they've got to be certain ways in order to come across well, or they've got to do certain things, or they've got to work in certain ways. That experience is going to stick with you, right? So now if you're then thinking about starting a project, which will perhaps give you more practical freedom, it feels like there's a lot tied to that, right? Or that's going to cause me a lot of pain. But actually, we can work in ways that are way more aligned to us. It is really nice to see that there are some people that are affected by that uncertainty. However, they're just making moves anyway. And they're saying like, okay, the room is pitch black, but I'm just going to feel my way around. And if I go around in circles a few times, and that's absolutely fine, I'm just going to make a move and see where I get to. I think that's what you need to do. If you want to develop assurance, grit, and be able to up that energy again, I think it's about taking what is in front of you, working with that, and then moving anyway. I think we'd have this very simple view of life, which is maybe a little bit narrow, that we set goals, we smash them, and then we get to this point where we can just spend the rest of life sipping margaritas on a beach. That's not realistic. Life is always moving, and we need to learn to adapt, to work with ourselves and to optimize, because otherwise life moves without us. And then we just keep falling back into this place of, oh, I just need to sort my life out. Everything that goes on inside of us is constantly affecting how we think, how we feel, how we behave. So, how we show up and how we function. We need to see those things in order to work with them. Self awareness comes first, self development comes next, right? You need to be able to see where you can lean into your strengths, where you have space to upskill, where you can build new habits. When it comes down to making choices where my personal performance is really driving the outcome, I don't take those decisions lightly either. And I think the people we were talking about, where they've kind of got this lower energy for making these decisions and investing in themselves, I think that is part of what they experience. They can't comprehend taking that risk on themselves. People ask me, how do you know you've picked the right thing? Or what happens if this doesn't work? You're not going to get rid of those fears. You do, however, learn to work with them. How you work with them is really unique. How you optimize all this stuff that goes on, whether that is your fears, whether that's other things, that's completely unique to you. And you need to work it out for yourself. For me, if I look back on the things that have helped me significantly, it's the fact that I've made lots of small changes over time that have, blown up. I prioritize a couple of skills I think are incredibly underrated. And then I'm always creating the conditions where I can try to tap into my intuition. And intuition is a massive topic that we're going to be talking about in the future. But really working with yourself in a way that is unique to you is a massive theme that I've noticed when I talk to people that are building things. Nobody moves to Barcelona with a 10-year plan and expects to be able to just tick off the list, like you say, and move on to each point without something else coming up. They are learning to work with themselves in real time. They don't have the answers to everything, but they're saying, okay, what's in front of me and how can I optimize every single day? You can watch all of these self-help videos, read books, you can listen to podcasts, and you can know all the things that make people great leaders and stuff like this. But unless you're doing something applied and something practical, how do you actually put yourself in that, right? It starts with you. The happiest people that I've met aren't the ones that are chasing freedom as an antidote to their worries or their stresses or the experiences that they've had. They're the ones that realize life is happening right now. You're in it right now. So whatever it is that is happening, that is your life. Instead of putting things off to the future and putting conditions on your happiness. Happy when I have this, when I do this. It's about taking more direction and being in a forward motion. So rather than thinking about future goals, it's taking into account what happens now. I think a sense of direction is ultimately one of those things that is really important, but it is one of a few things. And in the next talk we're going to have is we're going to be exploring some of those things and how that looks like personally for me that contributes to that overall sense of fulfillment and freedom. Compass is a great way to describe it, right? It comes back to this idea of, no, we're not mapping it out. We don't have all the answers, but can you create a general sense of direction? Can you allow yourself to tap into your normal human qualities and inner resources in order to be able to navigate what happens in that day, in that month, in that year, that ultimately gives you an overall sense of agency in your life. There's definitely not a perfect balance. In the last few years, obviously, I gave myself the opportunity to reset from the structure I was living in. I went from having a very planned life to stripping that back and saying no plans. And that was intentional. But definitely over the last couple of years, my life has been, one of those swinging pendulums. So it goes from like a lot of this and then to a lot of this. And then ultimately what I'm trying to do is find this middle ground. But like we say, life happens. That's constantly being knocked off base. The point is really being able to continually blend, continually work with it, always rebalancing, thinking about it more as a process. Life sort of takes care of itself, and you've got a life that is full of your priorities, and you're starting to do it as a version of yourself that you actually really want to be. Do you ever meet someone where you're so taken back by them that you think, oh, I want to be like you when I grow up? Even though, like, we're in our 30s. And some of these people can be like 10 years younger than you as well. There's a few people I have in mind when I think about this. They always have incredible relationships with themselves. So they're super self aware, they're self assured, they're confident, but not egotistic. Actually, they're always like super keen to evolve and learn things and grow. The people that I've met that I feel like have pushed through a lot of these challenges, it totally varies where they are on their more practical journey. Some of them might be doing something that somebody else would find really restricting. So it's not that they all get to a certain place or achieve certain things. It's not what they do that matters. We've seen this, is how you relate to it and how it fits for you. But I often find that they're sort of operating somewhere in between sense of accomplishment, ambition, and then just pure fun. The idea is that they don't get to this final destination. They know that it's an ongoing process. And I think these people really do use intuition like a superpower. They make moves not because they've got a crystal ball, but because they've got trust. They can handle whatever results that their actions bring them. I see how effortless their decisions are, perhaps decisions that somebody else would find completely overwhelming, that they've shrugged off and they say, oh, I'll just try this. I'm going to do it this way first, and then I'll see what happens. I do think there's definitely this commonality among their values where they really want to make an impact and leave a positive experience with people. And then community. It's interesting because I think ultimately a lot of these people, that's really what they're trying to find, where they can feel comfortable enough, community that they feel happy among. They want that, but they also know that if they do want to build anything themselves, if they do want to pursue anything, then their ability to be resourceful among a community is incredibly important. So these communities are really thriving. People feel a part of something, and that becomes a really nice path to be on. It gives us a lot of hope that perhaps what some people can just see as a little trait in their personality, a little itch, you can really take that and you can make it a way of life in a way that isn't just chasing after freedom. It does become the path itself. I think you need a process for that. You need a method. I found my method in mindfulness. That's my system to life. I think that you need something that you can evolve with, help you navigate the path, that inner compass, and something that's going to help you extract as much fulfillment as possible along that path. So in the future, we're going to be talking a bit more about mindfulness, the practices, the applications, some of the lessons that we can take from it that really gives us that foundation. You can go on your holiday first. And then we'll be back for our next chat.